Welcome to Real Thoughts with Bob Benham, everybody. I am your host, Bob Benham, and here we go with another episode. I hope everybody's having a good month and a good day and everything. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I hope things are going well for everybody. I just want to touch on a few things because it is Health Awareness Month, Mental Health Awareness Month, um, and it is a big deal for me and for quite a few of my friends and coworkers and things like that. They've been through uh, unbelievable circumstances. And so uh, I just want everybody to know, please don't be afraid to reach out, um, even if it's just for yourself to check in, say, hey, how things going, what's going on, you doing okay? It's always a good thing to do. I know I'm just as guilty as most of not doing it on a regular basis, but I do it from time to time. Um, because there's just it's too many of us have seen a lot of trauma in our lives. Um, Way too many of us have, uh, and some of us more than others due to the lives we've led. Like myself as a first responder and as a veteran, and um, like other folks, I have friends that are first responders and veterans, and just other first responders. It's the type of life that they have led has caused them to see a lot of very high end traumas and a lot of things that most people will never ever see in their lifetimes. Um, and though I know that when I started with the police department, um, and I'm kind of old school on it myself. You just kind of said, okay, you saw it and you went, yeah, okay, and you moved on to the next. There was no decompression from it. They didn't have safe zones or quiet rooms or whatever. You just moved on. That's how it was. You saw it, you did it, you took care of the problem, and you moved on. There was no time to whatever. And um, I, I don't have a problem with that kind of thinking because it makes you have to become stronger in the long run, um, to be able to handle the job in a more professional manner, because you kind of you're forced to have to um, detach yourself and not become so emotionally involved. And that is something that is uh, is imperative in law enforcement, in firefighting, in EMS, in uh, uh, being medical, all those kinds of professions. You have to be able to detach yourself from the emotional part. Um, it's a very hard thing to do. I mean, it's not easy to be able to, sit there and say, um, you know, uh, um, not have a feeling about something. It's uh, especially, well, and this I'm speaking from personal experience from this, especially um, holding an 18-month-old baby in your arms that was shot in the head um, because of some jackass boyfriend of some girl that was PO'd at her because for some dumbass reason, and he decides as he's leaving her apartment to shoot his gun through the wall and strikes the baby in the head. Um, you know, dumb stuff like that. Um, that's where the you have to become. It forces you to become emotionally detached. I remember that incident because that was one of my very first uh, high traumas that I experienced as a police officer. I was, oh gosh, I was fresh out of the academy. I think I was only on the street maybe 3 months. So it was all very, very new. So and it so it, you know all that stuff was just starting to hit. Um, and I was working in a very high crime neighborhood at the time. Um, in fact, it was one of the worst neighborhoods in the city to the point where uh, it was ordered that every cruiser in that precinct had to be 2 officers. There could not be any 1 officer cars in that precinct because that's how dangerous it was. So that it was. I mean, it was not good, not a good area to work. Um, and so yeah, I mean, you learned that area. You learned real quick um, what to do, how to handle things, uh, what to say, what not to say, things like that. Um, and you saw a lot of um, very bad stuff. Very bad stuff. You just saw how bad um, humans could treat each other, and it was one, and you just never could understand why they could do that to each other. Um, and you could ask, and they couldn't give you an answer. There was no answer for why they could do it, and you're just you would just shake your head. I mean, uh, you just shake your head and go, "This is crazy. This is." I mean, there's you. It just doesn't make any sense why you would do something like this to another person. Um, and it one of those things. It was just one of those things. Um, so then there was another incident I remember. There was my partner and I. We were walking out of a domestic call, yeah, that we had just resolved, and we were hearing all of a sudden there were shots being fired. I mean, it sounded like a war zone, and it was not far away from us. We were about ducking for cover, and there was ourselves, and there was another cruiser just down the street, and they were like, "What in the hell's going on?" And we're like, "Well, we don't know." And they're like, "Is it directed at us?" And we're throwing our arms up and just trying to figure out where it's all coming from and going and all that. And right at that moment, the dispatchers put out the shooting call, and it's just around the corner and down the street. And so we take off and head down there, and there's people running everywhere. And it was at a what we call a boot joint, which is an unauthorized liquor serving establishment, or an unauthorized bar, whatever you want to call it. And there was a fight. They started shooting at each other. Security guard that worked for the boot joint was involved, and he ended up shooting a guy that had a gun, and it was just pure chaos. And we got there, and there was a guy laying on the ground right in front of me. And I was still being on coaching at the time, and my second coach, he looks at me and goes, "Hey, ask him who did it, because I don't think he's gonna make it." And I looked down, I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. He probably ain't gonna make it." He was shot up. He had several gunshot wounds to him all over the place. And so he says, "You better ask him who did it before he dies. Get a dying declaration." I'm like, "Okay." So I bend down and I ask him. I said, "Who did this to you?" And he tells me to F off. Like, well, hey, man, you're not looking good. This is some serious stuff right here. You're shot up pretty bad. I said, "I don't think you're going to make it. I don't, the ambulance ain't even here yet. And you're bleeding out pretty good and quick. We're trying to help you out here and, try to get the guy that did this to you, help us out here." And he rolls his eyes up at me and he says, "I don't rat out my friends. F off." And those were his last words. That was it. And I was like, "You gotta be kidding me. This guy this guy, he don't rat out his friends? A friend did this to him, and he don't rat out his friends? He just got killed by a friend? That is, no. that can't be right. And I mean, I just sat there and I stood there and I was dumbfounded. I got up. I got up and I looked at my coach, my FTO, field training officer, and I said, "You heard what he said, didn't you?" And he goes, "Yeah, I heard it." I said, "Does that make sense to you?" He goes, "No." And he says, "And it shouldn't make any sense to you either." And he says, "And I'll tell you right now, you're going to hear that a lot." He says, just how it is. He says, "Don't make anything of it. Don't try to figure it out. It's not worth it. Just let it go." And I mean, it's just one of those things. Again, it sticks with you because it's one you just cannot make sense out of somebody saying something like that. I don't rat out my friends. A friend did this to you. You don't rat them out, and you just died. Makes perfect sense. Great job. Okay. So, I mean, it's just I mean, you just don't you try to understand how and why people do the things they do to each other. And you can't. There's no way you can figure that out in the job. No way. And so it's when it comes to that part, when you sit there after you go home for the day and you're thinking through that stuff, you're trying to process what you just saw, what you just went through, and how you handled all that. And I mean, it just sticks with you because you're trying to be the helper and trying to help people. You're trying to do good, and it's not working out. And when the people don't want that help, it bothers you even more because you don't know what to do. And when they don't want that help and you go home, it hurts. It hurts. And you're sitting there trying to figure out, well, I don't understand it. I don't understand why they don't want that help. Why they just rejected it. Why and that's another form of trauma because you don't it doesn't make sense that somebody would just say no to help being offered and then rejected. Um, and it, and if I mean, I've talked to people many times over the years over about that, and there's just there's just no explanation. There's just no explanation. Um, it's just one of those things that you, you're just gonna you just have to you, you just have to accept. I mean, it's like it's like uh, taxes and death. You have to accept it. I mean, there's no way around it. Um, so but it's still one of those things that it's trauma like. Um, and then you have your other things that you deal with. In addition to deaths that are not good, your suicides that you have to see, the different manners in which people end up taking their own lives. Um, and that's very rough to see. Um, then you have, um, of course, seeing children, things happen to children, um, seeing burn victims, seeing um, children that have been abused, things, just uh, other people being abused, um, physically, uh, sexually, um, mentally, and that's a tough one there. That's a real tough one because even though there's no physical signs and stuff like that, it is tough to have to deal with. I mean, you've got somebody that's just, they're being abused, they're being uh, to the point where they can't think straight. It's they don't know what to say. They don't know how to act. They don't know what to do because they're not sure of how the person they're with is going to react. Um, and I'm speaking from experience on that one. My late wife was like that. She was uh, unfortunately suffered from mental illness, um, and refused to get help. I just absolutely refused. And when when it got to the point where it was really, really bad, and that was about the last 2 years um, of her life, before she took her life. Um, she just, you just never knew what you were going to get, from one minute to the next. And what was really tough about it was she was, oh my gosh, she was just um, such a beautiful woman. Um, I can't say enough about her. Um, when we were out places, I mean, oh my gosh, people would flock to her. Um, I mean, people just wanted to get to know her and stuff. And you would, I mean, it was just interesting to watch and see how she attracted people to her. It was amazing to see, actually. And um, but the bad part was they didn't see the other side of her when she would, when she got home and stuff, how she was. And that was the part that I got to see. Um, and I did not tell anybody. I didn't tell anybody how she was. Um, and that was including way back when we were working. I didn't say a word. I was because she was a police officer too, and I didn't say anything because I did not want to be the one to cause her to possibly lose her job, because back then mental uh, issues were very, very frowned upon. Um, and it could have meant her losing her job. And I did not want to be the one that caused her to lose her job and being her husband. Uh, that would have been probably fatal to me. And I was not going to be that guy, and I was not going to put myself in that position. Just wasn't going to happen. Um, was it wrong? Maybe. Maybe. Did it turn out okay for the most part? Fortunately, yeah. It didn't, nothing came out of it. Everything was fine. Um, I mean, everything, there was just nothing that happened. There was nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, nobody saw it except for myself. As far as I know, anyway, as far as I know. So, uh, fortunately, it all went well. Um, I just know that when she would get home, it was an exercise in, for me, it was an exercise in walking that razor's edge and walking on eggshells at the same time. It was not a pretty sight. It was, um, it was stressful. It was extremely stressful. It was, oh God, I don't even know how to put it in any terms, but it was depressing for me. Um, it was very, Um, uh, I mean, I shut myself away from the outside world. I really did because and I was kind of forced into it by her. Um, she became very jealous of me, overprotective, overly. Uh, I mean, it was to a point where when I got home from work, I had to put my phone down on the kitchen table and pager, well, whatever, because we didn't have phones. They were just starting to come out with cell phones back then, but we had pagers. I had to put my pager on the kitchen table. Um, I had to put. Um, I mean, I just there was nothing that I could had that I could keep with me. And then when phones came out after I retired, phone had to go on the kitchen table. So she could act, and she had to be able to have access to all that stuff. Uh, I was not allowed to have passwords on my computers, or if I did have passwords, she had to have the password. Um, let's see. I mean, I had to have an open life. I couldn't, I couldn't be able to do anything or have anything like a private sanctuary where I could say, okay, I need just this little space for myself. And it was that was hard for me because I couldn't journal anything. Um, I just couldn't keep any thoughts about anything because I had tried that. Just even with her having access, and I would sit at the computer and I would write my journal out, and uh, a couple days later I would go to look for something, and it would be gone. What I'd written a couple days later or earlier, um, and then maybe I would look for something from a couple weeks before it would be gone. Depending, it just depended on what I wrote about. Uh, if it was something that she felt was against her or uh, maybe attacking her or just something that she didn't like, it would disappear. Um, so that was kind of the what I had to deal with. Um, I ended up I ended up going to a psychologist just to learn how to be able to deal with her. Um, and uh, this ended up happening right before she ended her own life. Um, and she ended up, during that time, she had accused me of sleeping with the psychologist because it was a female psychologist. She ended up accusing me of sleeping with this psychologist um, during the time that I was seeing the psychologist, um, instead of getting the help that I was getting and learning how to deal with her, um, because of her mood swings and all that with her depression and whatever else was going on. Um, and um, it was, oh man, was that tough. She had just totally flipped out for and this lasted for about 8 months. Um, right before she ended up taking her own life. And it was night and day. Didn't matter what time of day or night. I would try to go to bed about 11 o'clock, midnight, and she would come into the bedroom, sit at the end of the bed, and keep me up all night long. And just, berate me, uh, put me down. I mean, all just argue about everything and anything, the past, anything that happened in the past, and what's going on in the present, and the fact that whatever. I mean, it was unreal. I mean, uh, it was just. It was hard. It was hard because I had nowhere to go. Where was I to go? Nowhere. At that time, I was she and I were living out in Arizona. There was no family, nothing, nowhere to go. I mean, I was stuck. So it was like, I'm here. I got to put up with it. There's nowhere. I can't run. I can't hide. I can't do nothing. And so it was tough. It was very, very, very tough. Um, and it just it wore on me bad. Um, it put me into a different mindset, and my mindset was not good. Um, depression was hard. Was oof, off the charts. Um, anxiety was off the charts. Um, I did not have any thoughts of suicide or anything like that. I've been very fortunate in that I've never, except for one time, I've never really thought about suicide. Um, and I'm glad that's been um, the case for me. And the one time I did think of suicide was just after she took her own life, and it put me in a real bad spot. Um, I mean, extremely bad spot. Uh, and it just it about broke me. It about broke me. And even though I was seeing a counselor and stuff, uh, it just wasn't working. I couldn't. I just couldn't handle what was going on. And one morning I woke up and I was very, very upset that I was facing another day. And I went and pulled out my pistol and placed it in my mouth, and I was getting ready to pull the trigger, and I ended up looking down, and there was my 2 puppies and my cat, and they were literally looking up at me. And I saw them looking directly in my eyes, and I thought about the fact that they had just lost their mom in Brenda. And I thought, I can't do that to them. I can't rip their world out apart again. And I knew I had made the commitment to take care of them for the rest of their lives. And I took the gun out of my mouth. I put the hammer back and put it in the drawer, and it hasn't left the drawer since. And it's just it was, that's how broke I was. I was that broke. Now I think of myself as being a survivor. I don't have any thoughts of suicide now. I don't think about it. I look at life totally different. I look at it as something to survive and something to fight through and something to make the best of. And it goes, and that's another thing. It goes back to me wanting to do the podcast. And why I'm doing the podcast is to try to let people know you can do this. You can get through anything. There's nothing out there that you can't get through. When I lost Brenda, my first wife, she promised me the world. She said, "Oh, don't worry. When I'm gone, you'll be fine. I'm making sure you're going to be taken care of. You won't have a worry in the world." Well, guess what? There was nothing. There was nothing there. No life insurance, no anything. I mean, as soon as she was gone, her pension stopped. I get a survivor benefit from the state, and it's $550 a month. I lost her pension. Then at the same time, the pension board decided to stop covering us with medical insurance. That was a big hit because now I had to pay for my own medical insurance out of my own pocket. They did give us a stipend to cover part of it. which is a joke in itself because if you've been on Obamacare, um, the Affordable Care Act is a lie. It should have been called something else because it's not affordable, not even close. And all the BS that is in there, it's only good for the zip code that your taxes are filed in. It's an HMO. There are no PPOs, so that means you can't get a PPO type of insurance where you can travel anywhere you want. And like, if you're leave your zip code and decide to go to Florida for a trip or go wherever, that you can walk into a doctor's office and it'd be covered. No, you can't do that because you're out of network. You're out that totally not covered at all. So you have to pay that doctor whatever they charge out of your pocket. You do get covered. If you do go to an emergency room, you're covered for the visit, but that's it. If they decide to admit you, this, that, whatever, or do any other kind of treatment, that's out of your pocket. So, because it's out of network and out of, no coverage. What else about that wonderful Obamacare crap? Oh, if you decide not to get insurance and decide to have a lapse in coverage, all of your pre-existing conditions come back into play. So that means that if you decide to go ahead and get coverage later, if you had the gap in coverage, they can refuse to cover your pre-existing conditions. Hello, isn't that nice? That's one of those things they don't tell you. I mean, the whole thing's a damn scam. And that just makes me, that burns my butt. But anyway, I lost my insurance coverage at the same time, which put me out, what was it, 16, I think it was 16 something a month. And my pension being $3,200, $1,600 a month, I'm only on half pension now to live on groceries, paying for vehicle, whatever. And the nice part was just, 7 months before she did what she did, we had just bought a brand new fifth wheel to live in. And we just bought a brand new truck to pull that fifth wheel with. Brand new dually F350. And so now I had a brand new truck payment and a brand new fifth wheel payment to pay, in addition to now insurance that I can't use because I'm in Arizona and my declared residence is in Texas. And I can't go back to Texas because I don't have the money to make the travel back there. I wonder how that's going to work. Things were very, very tight. And I was stuck. I was stuck in Arizona. Fortunately, we had already paid the lot rent for the year, so I had a place to stay. And all I had to do was pay for the electricity on the lot. So that was a fortunate thing. But boy, everything else was not good. It was just not good. Because I was barely making it. I was literally, when I would get done doing the bills, I was in just double digits of money. At the end of the first of the month, I was in double digits of money to make it through the rest of the month. So, depression has followed me my whole life. Even when I was a kid, I was bullied horrifically. And daily. Um, Kids would wait for me after school around the corner, beat me up. They would call me names, make fun of me, make fun of the way I looked. They would walk up, pull my ears out, call me baby New Year, all kinds of stuff like that. And this occurred every single day. And this was all through grade school. So 8 years of that. I went to a private school. I went to a Catholic school. So this is not just public school. This is everywhere. And I went through 8 years of that. And when it came time to go to a high school, I decided to go to a school. It was another Catholic school. And I decided to go to a high school that I knew that there was not going to be a single person from my grade school that was going to go to this high school. And it was a school I wanted to go to anyway. It became it was my favorite school just by knowing about it, learning about it. And so I made that my first choice, and I ended up getting in there, and I was the only one from that grade school to go there. And so I knew I had a fresh start, and fortunately for me, no bullying at that school. And it gave me that reprieve that I sought. But it didn't help with the depression. That carried through. I sought counseling, a lot of help, even through high school. And it just made I've had that to deal with that my whole life. It's just been there my whole life. And it's even now, with the life I have, and I have a good life right now. People would say, "Well, why do you deal with depression now? You've got a good life. Things, everything's good. You don't have to worry about much. You shouldn't really be depressed about anything, but it's still there." And a lot of it is because of what I've had to deal with my whole life. And everybody says, "Well, you should just get over it." There's no just getting over it. You can't, it's not that simple. I wish it were. I've tried to just get over it. But it's just not that simple. Um, and I want you to know, I want everybody to know that even with somebody that suffers from depression, they're there for somebody else that has it. Um, because they know the experience. They know the experience. They know what you're going through. They know. They feel it too. So uh, if they reach out to you and say, "Hey, are you okay?" Don't be afraid to say, "No, I need, I'm needing to talk or whatever," because they know what you're going through. So talk to them. Don't be afraid, because they understand. They understand more probably than the person that's not going through it, um, because they live it. They live it daily, and and for other people, be kind to everybody. Just be kind because you don't know what everybody's going through. You don't know what that person's going through. They may look fine on the outside. They may look, walking around looking fine. Nothing doesn't look like, they just look like everybody else. But you do not know what they're dealing with. Um, and just be kind. Just say, walk by and, hey, if they say hi, and I do that all the time. I see people, I say hi, and I get, the stares I get from most people nowadays. Everybody, back when I was a kid, you said hi to everybody, and they said hi back. Now you get stares, and ugly stares, um, or whatever. Um, and I don't get that. I don't get that, the lack of respect, the lack of of just being kind to one another. I don't get that anymore. There's just nothing, and just hatred for everybody. Everybody hates one another. It just doesn't make sense. You know, uh, just I don't understand why you can't be kind to each other. There's nothing wrong with being kind. Just saying, "Hey, how you doing? What's going on? Huh? Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening. Hi. How you doing? What's up?" You never know. By doing that, it might make somebody feel good for that day. It just might just brighten that person's day up for just a little bit. You never know. Um, I know it does for me from time to time. It's like, hey, okay, cool. Um, please, you know, everybody's got something going on. Everybody. Um, yeah, the statistics claim that it's one in five. I think they're claiming now that have depression. I believe it's higher than that because there's a lot of people that don't report it because of the stigma that's attached to it. And while that's barrier is slowly coming down, thank God, um, there's more people uh, that deal with it than I think we even know. Um, I know that because I've watched how much that barrier has come down over the years, especially in the last 15 or so years. Um, and it's nice to see that it's finally coming down. Um, and especially for first responders and for military. For the things that they see the things they have to do. Um, and I didn't even mention a couple of things like my shooting that I was involved in, and uh, the poor guy that I saw on the freeway that was wrapped around a guardrail. Um, those two things are pretty bad. But anyway, you just it's finally happening for the first responders, and I'm glad that it is. Um, that's one area that it's really been needed for a long time. I've talked to counselors that are actually starting to start their own practices that are are directed just toward first responders, and that's it. Um, and I'm glad to see that because it really does need to be done. Um, and hopefully, the message, I'm trying to get messages out there. Um, like I said, there's nothing of what I am putting out. None of this is there's no script for any of this. Nothing. I don't sit here and there's nothing in front of me. Um, it's all from right here and right here. It's just wherever my it takes me. And yeah, okay, sometimes I go take a turn and maybe forget to come back, but um it just comes from mostly from here. And I just hope that it resonates with you, and that at the same time, um, you get the message. Um, so, with that, we will end this episode. Um, I hope everybody has um, safe next few days, and everybody takes care of one another. Everybody looks out for one another. Please be kind to one another. It's such a simple word, and it's so easy to do. Um, just be kind. Say something nice. Doesn't take much effort. Just, hey, hi, how are you? Good morning. Good afternoon. Hi. Hello. Um, and with that, I am done for the day. You've been watching and listening to Real Thoughts with Bob Benham. I am Bob Benham. Yes, I am. Really, that's the truth. You can look it up, and I hope you enjoyed listening to this. I hope that you've gotten some insight into what I have to deal with and what I know of others that have had to deal with it. And please take care of yourself. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. And until next time, take care of yourselves, and bye bye.